Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to today's Partner Web Conference. This is Fast Track Dynamics 365 for Talent Tech Talk. Today's topic, what's new in core HR? My name is Janice and I'm going to be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this web conference through Teams live events and the audio can be heard through your PC speakers. Today's web conference is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. If you do not consent to be a part of a recorded session, we ask that you please disconnect now. Attendees may access the web conference recording within 72 hours via the same registration link that was used to attend today's live broadcast. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, you can turn on the Q&A panel by selecting the question mark icon located in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. We do have presenters standing by to answer your questions throughout the session. Now, on to the presentation. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Senior R&D Solution Architect, Vaibhav Pednekar, and joining Vaibhav is Darin Kramer, who is a Principal Program Manager, and he's going to be supporting Q&A. So without any further delay, Vaibhav, floor is all yours.
Thank you, Janice, and welcome all to this Tech Talk. So the topic is what's new in talent core HR. So just to begin this, so it's not going to be an introduction to talent features, but it's about the new features, what has upcome in few months, and anything which would impact the implementation of talent. So going further into the agenda, we will be basically looking on few of the features around environment management, leave and absence, compensation, performance, integration, extensibility, the feature management workspace, and there is an appendix to links to the what's new and the release plan. So I will move to the environment management. So we have added an instance type, for provisioning the talent. I'll just present my screen to show that. So when I'm on the LCS project, under the LCS, I go to the talent app management. So this means that you already have a license and basically the subscription for talent, and you're the administrator in order to do this. I will click on the add environment. And if you see this, the new, it's basically the instance type sandbox and production. So we have provided the differentiation between sandbox and production. And the idea here is to basically, be able to move forward with our other enhancements which are coming around this. So the important point would be instance type sandbox would be used for any feature testings prior you move to production, any preview features you want to test before you basically enable them in production. And then that helps you to basically distinguish between, for different purposes around your environment planning. If you see, below my CDS environment is shown. If you don't see this environment, it may be that, it's basically created in an unsupported region. So we have our docs article, which talks about supported regions. It's currently United States, Europe, United Kingdom, and Australia. So you need to be careful around that. Okay. I will not do anything here. Just cancel. So that's what been highlighted here. Moving to the next is the leave and absence. Now around the leave and absence, we basically have added new workflow conditions. So currently, if I am submitting my leave application, then it should go through a workflow for approval. But if my manager on behalf of me or HR on behalf of me basically submits it, then you may basically want to have it auto approved or maybe some other condition. So you will basically have added those conditions. We'll again go to the system here. Just search for workflow. under the leave and absence. And I'll click on the 2 to 4 record. This should bring up my workflow window. So I'll select the approval. Just I'll go to the level down where I have it. Click properties and under conditions, I'll set it up. Run this step only when condition is met. Add the condition. I will have to select the entity which is a leave and absence request. And if you see submitted by human resource and submitted by manager. Okay, so these are the two things what have been added here. And this submitted by human resource evaluates the system user who is basically doing this task. It has a human resource role within talent. The submitted one will evaluate if the user has is a line hierarchy manager of the worker associated to it. So that's how the system basically would validate and process the workflow. I will not complete any steps here. So that's basically the new two conditions in workflow what we have added. Moving to the next. So we have allow reason codes on leave requests. So on the leave and absent types, right? Basically, we can specify reasons code now, which could be configured. And leave types are defined, to configure various types of absences which may require from an organization point of view. And mostly in most of the organizations, certain leave types would require reason codes to, like provide more information around it. So again, I'll go to the system to demonstrate. So I'm on the leave and absence type setup. Select sick leave. This is the one which I've configured. So in here we have reason code require option. Basically, this both of them. So if I disable them, right, then it doesn't require any reason codes. I will enable, and I need to add reason codes before I enable to, So those reasons codes should be set up prior to that. The difference, what you see, right? If all the reason codes are already attached to this particular leave type, then it will show none here. That's basically because I have already attached all the records. But if you have anything, you could add more to it. This ensures that, when employees or workers are basically submitting leave requests for a specific type, if it is enabled for that, they need to specify the reason code. It becomes a mandatory field. The other option which is available around now is the restrict access to selected role. Like when you enable, you basically are able to select the security roles which controls the who is allowed to basically access this particular leave type. So by default, certain roles are added. You could click add and add more roles. So depends upon the organization requirements, how they want to configure. Back to my slide now. So that covers this. The other important thing what we have here is, like to basically view balance transactions. So from the HR point of view or from the manager point of view, users, they will like to look at particular balance transactions, even the future balance transactions for an employee. So I'll just move to the system. I'll go to the people's workspace, select Julia, leave and absence, then view time off. And by default, it shows the approved time of screen, but we have time of request basically. So if you see, like the reason codes are available here also to view. So from this is where you'll see, and if you click on the balances, you should be able to see the balances as of date. Okay, so it shows current balance, the forecasted balance. If I want to go and check the futures, basically the future point of view, the scenario could be an employee has resigned, or you need to terminate, but before that you would like to understand how much leave balances it is, so the actions could be taken appropriately on that. So I'll just go 1 month ahead, apply. So if you see now my balances changes, the forecast balances. I could also, like, if I want to drill down into how much is the current balance, what is it made up of, I click on the current balance field and it basically provides me a drill down list of all the transactions. Okay. So you could go as many month as you think you are able to. You just need to be careful about the accrual rate. If it is semi-monthly, annual entry, so depending upon the time period you select, the balances would be adjusted then. I'll move to the slide now. So we have basically provided on the leave and absence additional date options when configuring the plans, the leave plans. So the scenarios could be, like there would be certain plans leave type which would not be, or it would be very specific to a certain criteria, custom criteria, like it could be around anniversary date, original hire date, seniority date, or any adjusted date. And you will need to configure that. So going again into the system. Okay, so just create a new one. Just name it. So just to be quickly on that, select leave type as sick. Just enter the date here I want and select the accrual frequency, example weekly accrual period basis. So if I have this plan start date and then employee specific date. So I click employee specific date, it basically adds additional field here, which is by default custom, but then I could basically select, what I want to have it fixed for this particular plan. It could also happen that you could also change the employee specific date based on the employee record. So just click save, click assign to employees, one way to assign the leave. Then here I could basically select what I want to change here, original hire, seniority. So I have few options here. And once I select that, add workers here and assign plan, those will get updated. I'll not do it here. Okay. So that's basically how you could use the additional dates functionality to configure specific leave plans as the requirement from an organization. So going forward, this is the screenshot around, the assigning to the employees. So what I look at now in the compensation, basically for the compensation plans, we have added advanced compensation security. So again, this is restrict access to respective compensations based on the rules. What does it allow, right? There would be certain compensation plan which should not be available for everyone to look at and to specific users or roles, and they are very like maybe probably around executive band level. I'll again go into the system. Go to the compensation management workplace, fixed compensation plan. Choose one of the one, like so. You have this basically the restrict access to selected roles option here. I'll just disable it, to stimulate the situation. So I want to basically configure this particular compensation plan that it should be restricted to selected users within the organization or roles. So I click yes. By default, the compensation and benefits manager is added. So that's probably the right thing to have. You can click add to put additional roles into it as per the organization requirements. And I'll select human resource manager. OK, it goes. So users having these two roles would be able to view this compensation plan and assign it basically. So that's how you control it. Move to the slides. OK, one more thing. Excuse me. So in order to enable this restrict access to selected roles, you will need to first enable it. Wow. So I don't know what happened. Sorry for this. So I need to go to compensation management. Links the parameters under compensation management. Under the compensation tab, I need to set this up under the advanced access. If I don't enable it, I won't be able to restrict access to compensation plans by roles. So this parameter should be enabled in order to make the feature available and restrict the compensation plans to restrict by roles. Okay. We'll move to the next slide now. So multiple compensation levels by job. Now this basically like you have a job. I take an example here, accounting manager, and you may have different levels within the areas around. Basically, it may be controlled based on the experience, or it may be region specific. And probably you'll have, instead of creating separate jobs, you could basically manage it by creating levels within the same job. And that's when you assign basically during the position allocation to the workers, you'll be able to select which level of compensation you want to select. And that would derive the control limits for each level. So if you see in the setup, we have low threshold, that is minimum, the maximum based on the market analysis or market situations, what you have done within the job market. And that could be a control point, which would be something, like the desired range for that particular level from an organization point of view. So again, I'll go to the system just to quickly show you that. From anywhere. Oh, sorry. So under the jobs, I click on the account manager just to show, like here. I can click add. So basically, you have the levels which you have configured already, and then you can pick out one of the levels which you think should be available for this job. Can specify. So that's how you assign it. And basically, when you're going to the employee to assign it, you will basically be able to select the levels. So that's what, it's basically available as part of the system now. I'll move to the next slide. So under the compensation, we also have like added features to basically when you do cross company transfers. So yeah, basically the scenario would be an employee is basically either promoted or is being moved to a different legal entity based on different situations. And you want to basically transfer the worker to new position assignment, and you basically within that would like to assign the new compensation plan. So that's now available. I'll again go to the system. Workers, filter for an employee. In case I'll select basically Julia. Go to change position. Basically here I would be able to select the new assignment date, like just example, never select the position. Then under the compensation, I will be able to select a different legal entity and the compensation plans basically from. So there is a B1 which is assigned here. The levels. So in here, basically, I could put the compensation period. I'll just try to simulate the situation. So I've just put some number in a random number to show that how that it is validated. So what we saw in the thresholds when we were setting up the job. So it says that it has to be between 100,000 to 200,000, not more than that for this particular band. You could correct it and basically rectify and then basically click change position in order to get that employee transferred to the new position across the different legal entity. I will not do this. I'll just cancel. Okay. Moving forward. The other way is like future compensation assignment in the position and transfer. So that's also possible. Like you could, I'll go to the system. So that makes way, with change position also you could do that, by assigning the date in future. But there is also another way, like if I go to the workers around the compensation tab, I click the fixed plan, click new, and then under the position, if I've already created a position and assigned to the employee, it will appear here. So if you see the 589 business manager, that's basically going to start somewhere in June 2020, 1st of June 2020. So you could basically select it from here and do the same thing. Effective date, the pay rate, and then you can click OK to basically assign that position. Will not do this task because I need my demo machine. Go back to the presentation. So just coming back to here, this could be like the scenarios are that you normally have some minimum time period required. The scenarios could be to basically have the position place as a policy that should be in place and based on the HR standards, operating procedures, basically. So it could be aligned to any one of the situation there. The other part, is about having decimal places under the variable compensation. So this we had before basically fixed like in integer format, not anything in real, basically where you couldn't assign decimal values. So the compensation around the cash bonuses could depend upon different rules or formulas, and that could land up into decimal places. Like example here, what I've shown is like 6,555. So again, I'll just go quickly to the system. In here, so the number of units is the field where you will basically be able to specify the decimal amount, So it depends basically how that's computed. Some of the organization may have decided to basically round off, but certain things, like certain specific bonuses could be coming out that they would like to pay in decimals. That is possible now. So we'll move to the next slide. Around performance, basically. So on the performance side, the first point is like we had the final score rating, right, field which was not writable. So that's been modified now, and you are able to import the final review scores. If they're getting computed outside Talent or any other external systems which you export, then you can use the DMF entity performance review to upload that, and that's possible now. Going to the next point is the performance journals attachments enabled for managers and employees. So I'll quickly go into the system and try to just highlight the areas. So if you're a manager, because I'm like system admin, so I'll have all access. But if they're manager role, then you could basically choose your direct reportees and attach any files to it. And you could basically use the example I'm just saying here on the first record, you see there's a count 0 basically. But if I click attachments, I'm able to add any of the attachment, of different types. You could add those type into to document type settings, and they will appear here. So you could basically select any one and then browse it and upload the file, and this will be attached in here. Once it is attached, right, I'll not do that. So the count will increase here on the number of attachments which you have. Okay, that's around the performance journals, the attachments. The other part what we have is like coming soon, which is printing of performance reviews. At the moment, that's not possible, but it's in already in development and would be coming soon. The idea here is to whatever performance review you see as part of the template within the system, that basically will be printed, and the printing would be to a Word document. And for that would help you to basically have the printed copies for reviews if they need to be circulated or like for discussions, one-to-one discussions. Then the other thing is coming soon, which is the view extended information. That basically it's a new option which will help let managers basically view performance of both their direct reportees as well as their extended reportees. So if I am the director, I have like 2-3 managers reporting to me, and they have in report people reporting to them. I would be able to basically through this feature would be able to see the performance reviews, performance goals of those employees also. So that's also coming soon. Moving to the next. So again, just to highlight here, there were some bugs around the performance, like feedback around email message and performance review comments. So those bugs are also fixed, and they're rolled out to the production. So they should be available for the current systems. Going forward, it's the integration extensibility. First thing to highlight here would be the position hierarchy validation form. Again, I will move to the system because the form itself talks about what it is going to do. So the scenario would be that you're importing, the positions and the position hierarchy externally into talent. And here is the area where you could basically validate the line hierarchies. So if there are any circular references, those will be highlighted here, which you could correct within the system. And then you could basically close the issues around that. So that ensures that, your position hierarchy is in line. There are no circular reference, and so you don't get into untoward scenarios when you're testing. So that's been added. The other part is the common data service integration page. Again, I will go to the system. So in order to enable the integration with the CDS, right, you need to enable this parameter. So the idea would be like if you're installing talent or implementing and configuring it. So at the beginning, you could disable this, upload all your relevant data into core talent using the DMF. Once that's all done, then you could basically enable it. So once you enable it, it will start syncing with the CDS database, and the data would be populated. The other area would be on the administration side, it's kind of to, some kind of like support related thing to identify issues between core HR and CDS entities basically. So if the records are being synced or not. So under here in the drop down, you could select the CDS entity. For example, I'll just select one of them, and it should show you basically the CDS entity reference, the talent entity, the talent reference. And basically, if you see there are issues with syncing, then you could basically click again. If you have done any corrections which were required, you can use the sync now to sync them and validate whether after the correction the records are visible within CDS entity. So we'll go to the next. Custom fields. Okay, so probably you would be aware that there is. I'll again go to the system just to bring up that screen and then talk about it. So if I've added custom fields to any of the entities, they will appear here. Tables. So select and the custom field will populate. Under the entities, could basically click enable, wherever I would like this custom field to be populated. And for a CDS, the entity basically will start with prefix CDM. So if I want to push this to the CDS, I should select the CDS entities and enable them. After I do enable, it's important that I apply changes. Once I apply changes, the sync will happen. So the custom field, wherever it is, I will explain that in one side. But if this allows basically to push the custom field on the entities, it will basically sync immediately. But remember, you need to click apply changes. Going forward. So the integration extension, we like to talk the capabilities, right? So entities to support custom fields in there. So all talent entities are being updated or refactored, to basically support custom fields. So we have a reference doc article, basically, core HR and common. It's basically updated, and also we have the what's new page, which weekly updates. So there are certain entities which are refactored for supporting custom fields in CDS that are populated. The other area is the new entities. So all new entities what we create will support custom fields in CDS. So any new entities which we push right would already have that. So you don't need to basically worry about it. We are working on basically completing almost, we are near to that work, like ensuring that all the talent entities, what we have at the moment to update it and push it to CDS. The other area, what I would like to talk here is basically about integration with FinOps. So currently we do have a FinOps data integrated template available. So the template can be extended to basically use or like configure the different entities what you want. So we would like to highlight if you're expecting that we are going to release some new templates. So at the moment, it doesn't seem to be, but the existing template can be used to add, like task which are related to very specific entities what you want to achieve between FinOps and talent. It's important that you validate, like those entities where you want to do are available on the CDS. If not, then basically look out for alternate approaches around it. So I will move to the next slide, which is around, like the alerts with email support. So from platform update 26, which we shortly call as PU26, the ability to send email, when you create an alert is possible now. So the scenarios could be like benefits expiring in 2 weeks, and so you'll like to have an alert basically set to you as well as send it to the email. So that's possible now doing. Just talking on the other field which you see right, it's bottom. I don't know whether it's readable or not, but it's send externally. So that's a platform feature which is still in progress on talent side, which will be first roll out with FinOps, and that's basically having the business events. So at the moment it's not available for talent, but there is work going on to see how we progress on the platform team to ensure when we can have it. So that's it on the alerts with the email support. So rest of the feature on the alert creation remains the same. There is no change on that. Then coming to the features management workspace in talent. So this is, we already had a tech talk on feature management, like, so this workspace, I just read this slide because it's exactly what it is going to be doing. So it will be made available and which you basically view, enable, disable and schedule the features. So the idea would be that, in your sandbox environments, you enable them, test them basically when you're sure that it's that the features what you have enabled and tested around meets your needs around the requirements and are being fully tested. You could go to the production environment and then enable them. So there is a link basically to view the documentation from there. So that should be, I copied the link of the feature management tech talk, which should basically take you into more details and provide you more better understanding around it. So coming to appendix, right? I would like to highlight, the problem, maybe most of you are aware, we have released the Wave 2 plan. So that's our release plan, which covers, from October 2019 to March 2020, our roadmap. And the first link basically gives you across all our Dynamics 365 products. The next link, what's new and planned for talent, is specific to the new features, the planned features from October 2019 to March 2020. So you could basically visit them and look at. So just touching base on the reflecting back on the environment management, right, where we have added the instance type as sandbox and production, right, to differentiate. So we'll be coming out with a feature to copy data from one environment to another, and that's where it will help you to basically differentiate between the environments. That okay, either it is one way, or after you go live, if you want to refresh your sandbox from production to a sandbox environment to stimulate any situation scenario or the next rollout of features, then you should be able to do it. So that timeline is available under the second link, what's new and planned for talent, and other planned features also. The second part, what I would like to highlight here is basically docs article, which is the talent under that, it's what new. So every weekly we have a cadence basically to push updates. So, you will basically able to view that and we'll able to understand what's being pushed, what's in preview, what's coming soon. So the another part to it would be any entities where we are basically enabling support which are pushed to basically the production, and any new entities which are basically getting added. So that way you could basically be up to date with the information needed for you to align with your implementation or any work which you are doing around pre-sales or delivering solutions or taking alternative approaches to meet certain requirements. So with that, I will basically move to the Q&A section and would stop speaking now and see if we have any questions. So do we have any questions here, like which needs to answer or address? I see most of the questions are already answered, but feel free to ask. We could basically spend another few more minutes.
All right, thank you, Vaibhav. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as our presenter mentioned, we are open for Q&A. So if you have any additional questions, please feel free to enter them into the Q&A panel and we'll address them shortly. In the meantime, I'd like to bring your attention to a link that I posted in the Q&A panel. That's a link to a short survey for this web conference, and we ask that you please take a moment before logging out to access it. We hope that you found today's information helpful, and if you enjoyed today's web conference, have feedback on how we can provide you with a better event, or you'd like to submit topics for future web conferences, this is your chance to let us know. The survey scores are on a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest score possible. And let me check the Q&A panel. I'm not seeing any new questions come in. Darin, did you have any that you wanted to summarize?
I don't think so. If there are any follow-ups, certainly push them through or even contact me. Looks like there was one just entered. How does the integration with finance and how does this integrate with finance and operations? Also, can you show more of the benefits section? Talent does have a template that is used for the integration between talent and finance and operations. It's some of the base or core entities that are available. It has a new template as we run through all of the processing. The template, we don't have necessarily add new entities to it, but it is available for you to add, remove options as the information, as the CDS entities are available. It doesn't do anything with benefits at this particular time. The second question that just came in was basic entities such as the worker position association is not available in CDS. Sync integration and any plan for the same. So the worker position assignment should be there. If this is related to the relationships, we will be going back through and looking at more of the, I call it the auxiliary data around workers' positions to fill out some of that information. We're currently looking at like task management and those types of things, skills and the competencies, but we'll eventually get to those. We don't have necessarily timelines for those particular relationship ones right now. Those are the questions that are have been published so far.
All right, thank you, Darin. Vaibhav, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I do have one more item.
Oh.
Looks like it came in.
Okay.
I would, because this question does get asked quite a bit. Do we know when the financial dimensions will be integrated from talent to finance and operations? I can't specify a date on this one. We are waiting for some things from the finance and operations team that we're dependent on. So I don't have a date. Just know that it's a high priority for us to get the integration to also include the dimensions between the two systems.
All right, excellent. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude today's web conference. Attendees can access the web conference recording via the same registration link that was used to attend today's live broadcast. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters, and thank you, audience, for logging in and joining us today.